Understanding People Part 20. Wow, feels like just yesterday I was starting this series, and you guys love this series, so it's gonna keep going until we get to like 1,000. I don't know, we'll see. Today I want to talk about misery loves company. This is very fundamental when it comes to understanding how humans work. You have to understand that certain people live very miserable lives, and I don't say this maliciously. I say this as something that's very clear and evident based off their actions, based off their habits, based off things they pay attention to, things like that. With misery, it's a lower vibrational frame of thinking and experiencing life. And of course, misery isn't always something that people put upon themselves, right? Some people are genuine victims of things, and as they're victims of things, they have trouble processing their victimhood and turning that to something where they can be on top and go through that. So I'm not discounting that, but in my other video when I talked about fault and responsibility, something cannot be your fault but still be your responsibility. So if certain events happen in your life that were very bad, it's still your responsibility to turn things around as best as you can with the life that you have to live in this human form. So but a lot of people reject taking responsibility, and they opt for living in misery and wanting others to join them in their misery because it's comforting. When you have a community of people that are miserable, you find comfort in that and belonging. And belonging is one of the fundamental needs of a human. I talked about that in Understanding People Part 4. Now, when you understand that misery loves company, you have to see how people that are miserable try to bring you down. You have to see how people that are miserable try to get you to be like them. And you have to not be like them, right? You have to identify that, right? What habits, what frames of thinking is this miserable person trying to get you to be a part of? There's a topic known as pendulums, and pendulums is just a united collective thought process that goes on. So when you fall under a pendulum, you're falling under a united frame of thinking. So for example, think of a singer that's very talented, etc., and she has haters everywhere. They are a pendulum. Like, they maybe create Facebook groups to hate on her, they talk about her on Reddit, maybe they make YouTube videos, they just hate on her. So this is a pendulum, a group that thinks a certain way, that's trying to get this singer to kind of think like them about herself. And it's dangerous. What happens if she does that? She starts to question her ability to make music, and she starts having anxiety about performing and her craft and things like that. And then if she falls under that pendulum, she just stops making music altogether or becomes depressed or something like that, without knowing that these people are coming at her from a certain way of thinking. They're miserable themselves. They want her to be as miserable as they are. They envy her ability to work on a craft. They envy her ability to live a happy life, to smile, to be talented in something. They envy her ability to persevere. Maybe she has a story of persevering and it shines light on them, and they just can't handle that, so they hate on her. And it's how the subconscious mind works. It's how the shadow works. There are certain traits and things that a person doesn't want to face or doesn't know. And when somebody else is facing that, they're threatened or taken back by it. You do want to avoid the miserable. You want to identify miserable people, and people that are envious and things of that nature. And if you're working on a craft, or you're working on something that's creative or whatever, if you're working on something, especially something that requires a great degree of effort on your part, whether it's a I don't know, like a hobby, a business or something like that, or whatever, you have to watch and identify envious people or jealous people. Now, this is not the same thing as constructive criticism. Do not mix those two. Constructive criticism is amazing. It's very important. And in fact, haters and miserable people can also help you too. They can shine light on your ability to take, bad feedback. How triggered do you get when someone talks nonsense, right? And how quickly do you fall under that frame of thinking? How quickly do you fall under that? So what you can really do with miserable people is you can use them as a mirror, right? Like, how you react to them tells you a lot about you. There is a degree of compassion to have towards people like this. A lot of times they don't know what they don't know, and it is what it is. You can't help everybody, and you do want to watch the people around you, how negative they are and things like that. I remember back in the day, I met this guy. You know, him and I were cool acquaintances, and this is like what, 3 years ago, like 2019, summer of 2019. We were like cool acquaintances. We had a lot in common, things like that. Cool guy. But I would notice every now and then he'd make these snide remarks, and whether it be, you know, about people he knows, sometimes about me, and sometimes about himself even. And I noticed it pretty quickly, but I kind of brushed it off in the beginning because I was like, hey, maybe he's just like self-deprecating or whatever. And then as time went on, I could tell, like, okay, like, you know, this guy's miserable. So I distanced myself from him. You know, I just cut him off. That's simple. Just cut him off. Really, really that simple. And that's how ruthless you have to be with people like that, because they can really, you know, they just don't need to be there. And I did learn a lesson, right, in identifying these thought processes in people. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video on misery loves company. Miserable people do want you to be like them. This is Understanding People Part 20. Have a good one. Peace.